you ready to see this thing? Can't believe this thing is mine. That is insane. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I have personally been very busy these last couple months, so thanks for sticking it out all this time waiting for another Mclaren video. But we're finally back, and I have a whole video on the second channel if you guys care to watch more behind the scenes stuff on that. This video is a lot of miscellaneous stuff, buttoning up the build. Can't wait to show you guys all the behind the scenes work I just did over the last couple months on this project to make it look like it does now. Again, thanks for joining me. Smash that like button. Let's get to the video. So now that the Mclaren is painted, we get to actually put this thing all the way back together. One reason I haven't permanently fixed the smoking issue just yet is because I need to just get this thing put back together. So all the electronics are connected together, and hopefully that will clear a lot of the codes and the faults on this car so we can easily sort this thing mechanically. There were a lot of complaints the last video in the comments that the panel gaps are so bad and everything. Well, it's probably because all of this is zip tied together from the paint shop, not even bolted in at all. The hood I know I actually need to look at, but they just like threw a bolt in there just to hold it onto the car. I need to take a bunch of stuff out of the garage and shift things around again. But I want to get it fully put back together so we can actually start getting this thing on the road. Yeah, that's actually pretty much it. We'll make things work. We'll figure this out. Well, we got the garage cleared out, so let's get this thing in the freaking garage. I always get nervous starting this thing up. I know the engine's fine, at least the live data, that's what it said. But still, the smoke gives me anxiety every time. Let's just back it straight on up. Woo-hoo-hoo, this is sketchy. All right, here we go. I can't even see through the smoke. Wow. Woo, 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 woo. Just another day. Car runs great. We'll get this thing smogged right now.
Here sits the cheapest 2016 McLaren 650S Spyder on planet Earth. And man, it feels so good to be back working on this thing. And it's so close to being done. Let's get this thing finished and on the road. But first, a quick word from our video sponsor.
There's an electrical connection back here to plug in. This chair has freaking underglow, and the cup holders are all lit too. The buttons you can turn on and off the underglow. This button does the headrest, and then the second switch does the whole chair. Look at this, like a full-on bed right here. Also has a USB-C and a normal USB port, in case you need to charge stuff or something. Insane, dude. And it does come with a tray table if you want to use it. I'm just gonna leave it off though. And the tray table does fit right into the storage compartment, which you have too. Freaking nice chair. Freaking nice chair. Thank you guys for sending this to me. This is awesome. This is like the perfect addition to the garage. Like a red sport chair is like my ideal chair right here. So anyway, there's a link below, guys, if you do want to check this chair out more, but let's get straight to work.
I hate dirty cars, so first step is to finish cleaning it up. Since the car just came back from the paint shop, there was no end of body filler dust and dirt from months of sitting with the windows down in 2 different paint shops. So before I make this last push to the finish line with this project, I want to get it cleaned up and looking like $1,000 again.
Fortunately for you guys, there's footage missing in this section of the project. I just realized that editing the video. Long story short, the video is shorter and less boring now, but let me explain what happened in this gap of time. So this door panel sustained some damage during the crash, and the shell of the door actually ripped off from the structure underneath. So the footage I don't have, what I was doing was putting panel bond underneath this panel, and I clamped a bunch of clamps onto the door structure to hold it overnight. And then I came back the next morning and the panel bond was all dry, and you can tell the door closes really nicely now. No rattling, nice and solid, exactly how the door should feel. And another thing you won't be seeing is putting a lot of the interior together. Anyway, sucks that the footage is missing. It was actually really interesting stuff that I wish I would have just for my own memory's sake, but yeah, such is life. Let's move on. All right, well, I'm hoping this window doesn't have fiberglass all over it. We shall see. Put cardboard down so it wouldn't have as much. Well, I gotta figure out why this window is so floppy. This is the first time I'm rolling up the window since probably 3 months ago when I disassembled this thing for paint the first time. Yeah, anyway, I'm gonna roll the window up and I'm gonna pry this cardboard off the glass, and hopefully a fiberglass resin that actually seep through the cardboard onto the glass doesn't stain the actual glass. So anyway, here's to hoping. Let's roll this thing up. Ugh. Oh, frick. Oh, I see this part. Stuck to that. That's fine. There's window strip over that anyway. Weather seal. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's definitely resin on it. Please don't have stained the window. Please. Please. Oh, it looks like it's gonna peel right off. Oh yeah, looks like we're good. That had me worrying right there. Quick wash and this will be good to go. Fiberglass I repaired here is not perfect. I put the clamps on to clamp it to the understructure. I didn't realize the clamps were a little bit uneven. So there's a little bit of a wave right here in the end part of the window. So I'm gonna throw the weather strip on and hopefully it seals how it's supposed to and the window doesn't catch on the weather strip and stuff. So yeah, anyway, that's the hope. But dude, the door panel looks fantastic. I haven't seen it as like an actual door panel for a while. So this is really nice. See if it'll roll all the way up. Oh yeah. Very nice. All right, I found the weather strip, but this means I have to take the door panel off again. All right, well, let's get to it, I guess. The window is a little bit off too. I think this is the track that the window slides in, and it wasn't rolling up and going inside the weather strip. It was going over the weather strip. So I need to adjust this window somehow. Gonna take apart the rest of the door. Adjust that little tiny window 1 millimeter.
Previously for paint, I loosened this small window thinking that I needed to take it out, but I didn't realize this window actually doubles as the window track that guides it to the top and seats it under the weather strip along the roof line. So now when I roll the window up, it's misaligned so it isn't seating the window under the weather strip, but over it. Obviously not what we want here. So I have to adjust the window to a position that it will guide the window to its proper position when rolled up. It's just a bunch of small adjustments and I ended up needing a small shim in the end to make it sit right. I installed and uninstalled the door panel several times during this process, so pardon my frustration in the next clip.
Mother effer. Why? I think it was in video 1 or 2, but this freaking speaker has been the bane of my existence. Whoever took it out last time stripped and broke all of the freaking riv nuts, and all 3 of them are now broken besides this very bottom one. Now I have to break the riv nut out of this piece too because it just stripped itself in the door panel. And I've been going so gently on this thing, just making it work. And now I have to freaking fix all of the stupid riv nuts in this door panel because whoever was working on this last freaking torqued these too hard and it stripped all the freaking riv nuts out. Anyway, that's how my day's going. And what would have been a 10-minute job is now like half a day of work. Probably someone in there with an impact gun just the torque spec on this stuff was probably like freaking 6 foot-pounds. And now I have to fix it. Yep, and there's the riv nut. Freaking stupid. I don't even know, dude. Now I have to like, I don't know, re-fiberglass everything? Stupid.
To state the obvious, yes, I've had enough trying to work around sketchy work somebody else did in the past. It's really annoying. And while it is frustrating, I accepted that it's probably just better that we knock this out now so there's nothing rattling or breaking in the future when I'm driving it. You know, and it gives me a chance to upgrade my fiberglass and riv nut skills at the same time, which will be quite useful for our next project. Riv nuts I'm still getting used to. I think this may have been the first riv nut I used in fiberglass, so I learned quickly that the riv nut compressing will actually break the fiberglass if the hole is too small. But hey, it worked out great in the end. I added more fiberglass resin into the cracks the riv nuts created, and it came out really strong. Still though, not a job I was looking forward to spontaneously having to do that day. All right, well, here's the finished product. Not the project I wanted to do, but at least it's done. It actually turns out that Triador Red Met, the same color I used for the CB750 build, is pretty much identical to the Mclaren paint. It's really dang close. Right here, it looks a little lighter because it actually was sprayed onto a light, like basically white. But you can see when it's sprayed over the OEM paint, it's almost the same. It's really dang close. Anyway, now with that stupid project done, let's get to putting the door panel back on and continuing with the actual repairs. Well, we finally have the door 100% put back together, and that took a freaking long time. Anyway, finally with that done, I'm gonna go ahead and start blasting the front end of the car apart one more time. The hood I have to work on a little bit, but step one is just to get the whole thing torn back apart. We'll try to figure out the clock spring codes that came back. I think I didn't align the wheels well enough last time when I reinstalled the clock spring, and so even though I did the correct procedure, I think it was slightly off. So anyway, we're gonna get that figured out too. Couple minutes of lollygagging, but what do we got? 17 minutes so far? Not too bad. I'm gonna go ahead and move along to figure out the clock spring issues. So I'm gonna make sure these wheels are as lined up as I can get them, and then do the whole clock spring sequence one more time. Hopefully that'll fix it. We'll get into this later, but the faults I assumed were clock spring related faults were actually two specific errors I was getting from the power steering pump from a bad reading from the steering angle sensor. So it actually wasn't clock spring related at all. I just need to do the whole 2.5, find the middle, put this back on straight. Hopefully that'll fix it. Again, this is probably at least the 5th time I'm doing this. This should be it, right here. This should be it. Actually, you know what? I think I'm gonna fix this ground wire here before we go too far. That might also be part of the problem. So while doing this sequence again is kind of pointless in hindsight, it was good to end up repairing this ground wire while we were in here as preventative maintenance.
Beautiful. How am I still getting those faults? Seriously. Note to self, do not roll the driver window down all the way. All right, please, just please work. It actually worked. How about that? What a big win. So note to self is just don't roll it down all the way. If it stays like that, totally fine. There's a little part, I don't know why, but the metal actually gets bent in there. That might have helped, if not fixed it. Frickin' seriously. No. Note to self, just don't roll down the window ever.
With the driver door situation finally figured out and off my mind, the next day I moved on to buttoning up a lot of the small items that needed to be done. A mysterious problem that recently popped up is the passenger side door is no longer getting power to it, so I can't roll that window up. The car has a built-in owner's manual, which is cool, so I decided to check if it had a fuse diagram, which it did. I went ahead and took photos of that for future reference when we're figuring out the door panel, and browsed around in the manual just out of curiosity. It definitely was a good reminder of just how awesome this car is. And we're also getting a climate control fault because the passenger door isn't reading the climate control switches along with the passenger door release fault. So I've already made the executive decision to not replace the dash airbags at this point, so I'm just patching up the holes to complete the interior here. The reason being, total cost to replace 3 small airbags in the entire dash panel would be $10,000 to $12,000 and a complete teardown of the interior of the car to replace them. Not worth it.
I think they actually glued this from factory. So let's get freaking glue out and spend another half day gluing 2 small tiny little trim pieces back on. Nothing is easy.
I think it's actually adhesive that they used from the factory. Like legitimately adhesive that like ripped the fiberglass, and there's like thick hard layer right there. Like the trim pieces on this car were obviously not meant to actually like come off at all, like ever. Pretty crazy.
As I mentioned earlier, this is when I figured out the power steering fault. The Autel scanner gave me a general power steering fault, so I decided to check the connections on the actual unit. All right, I was poking around off camera a little bit. I loosened up the power steering pump and I tried to reconnect the connector again. And it actually looks like it is kind of in there now. In my attempt to connect it fully, I pushed pretty hard on it, and the connector, like the clip that you kind of like squeeze to pull it off, that broke halfway, so it's just kind of like dangling there. I broke it all the way. Now it goes on farther than it did before, and it's actually kind of held in there. So I think the problem connector is actually connected now and giving the signal as it should. So I'm gonna put it back in, then we're gonna scan the car and see what else we can find out. All right, and because this is hopefully the final reassembly, the last time I have to do this, hopefully, I am going to give it a nice fresh wash, a little bit of a degreasing in these areas, just kind of make it look newer. You know, I never did really like a thorough clean on it, so that's what I'm doing right now. Another thing I'll note that I've never noted in past videos is the wheel bearings seem totally fine. There's no play on any of this. Obviously, steering feels good as well. It's nice and smooth, but also heavy at the same time. But yeah, there's no wobble in anything. So I think we're all set. And every time I drove it, it felt great. So, all right, let's get this thing cleaned up and put this thing fully back together. Lots of rocks and stuff already coming out of this. You know, maybe I should have just cleaned it before, but I wanted to make sure the car was actually gonna drive, you know what I'm saying? During all this miscellaneous work was the point where the project stopped feeling so much like a project and more like a real car. Now that all the major mechanical issues are fixed and I'm on to doing the finish work like trim and final reassembly, I'm so much more motivated to just get all these little tasks done, which will really have the biggest impact visually in the end. The paint guys at Irwindale Collision were kind enough to give me the last bit of paint from the job in case I needed to make touch-ups, which was perfect because the parking sensors still needed to be painted. I went ahead and just dipped them in the paint instead of spraying it, and they came out great. So my main task here was finishing out the shell of the bumper by installing the side wings and parking sensors, and also running the wiring for the parking sensor harness. The two front sensors fit perfectly because I drilled them, so there wasn't really modification I needed to make there. But the pre-cut holes from China on the vents were significantly bigger than the sensors, so I used hot glue to get them into place and then epoxy to hold them in permanently. I know you may laugh at that, but if you guys followed the previous electric builds we've done, I always wondered why Lord Kurt's go-to glue was hot glue. But during this build, I realized how insanely versatile it is. It's strong but flexible and easy to build up. Yeah, I'm a big fan. So after the bumper was finished and looking incredible, it was time to move on to restoring the headlights. Both of them were pretty messed up. The headlights and the broken windshield are the only two remaining visible damage from the accident. So once the headlights are restored and the windshield is replaced, this car will finally look like it was never crashed. For restoring headlights, I have always used clear coat to seal, but this time around it came out really rough. I bought brand new, higher priced clear coat to do this, but it was just laying down horribly.
That is so bad. And it's not because I was doing anything wrong. Holy crap. There's a lot of little bubbles in there. It's like super cloudy. 10 to 10, do not recommend this Raptor enamel. Wow, that's bad. Well, we gotta finish the freaking job anyway. We gotta sand it all back off, then so be it.
And sand it off I did. I wasn't a professional at headlight restorations going into this. I had done a few in the past, but I got a whole lot better at it while doing this. Fun fact, it actually goes a lot faster with the right tools.
Okay, so I'm back to where I started finally, and this time I'm gonna go for a ceramic coat. I realize now that the reason why these headlights and the clear coat started cracking so significantly was because it was freaking cold in the garage, and I was spraying the clear coat, which was warmer than the headlight, onto a cold headlight. And so the clear coat was just contracting as it hit the headlight. So that's why the cracks started happening. So, and while I could probably clear coat this one no problem because it is warmer outside right now, I'm just gonna go for a ceramic coat and see if it actually works. All of the most recent uploads about how to restore headlights are all using ceramic coat. So basically I just wanna see if it'll actually work. And I don't wanna run the risk of having to do this again.
Okay, so I sealed both the headlights using ceramic coating, and so far I'm happy with the results. As long as it actually does last up to 3 years, I'd say it's an easy way to get headlights looking really good. I can always apply more ceramic coating over the years too, so it's easy to keep protected over time.
Let's jump on inside the car. Still getting power steering fault, but I suspect, hopefully, it's a more specific fault this time. Before, when I was reading the power steering fault, it just said general power steering fault. So if those wires are connected now and they weren't before, we should get an actual power steering code we can read. So we're going for a fault scan right now and we'll see what happens. Yep, here's our new power steering fault. Implausible signal received from SAS. So I'm gonna go ahead and go into that module. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and give it the good old fashioned lock right, lock left. Just see if I erase this, what it'll do. Yeah, still same thing. I have made some headway. You guys can see this is the steering angle sensor live data. If I turn the wheel all the way lock right, you guys can see it is exactly 180 degrees off. And that's why the steering angle sensor is throwing an implausible value to the power steering pump. But we know the problem. So once we get that figured out, this will no longer give me a power steering fault. And that's all that really matters. Freaking seriously, it doesn't have Mclaren in its service data for the steering angle sensor recalibration. If I were to click one of these, it'll probably say, yeah. Decoding VIN failed, yay. So we have to do this the freaking analog way. Freaking seriously.
Been having fun with this car.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very relative term, I guess, at this point. And the oil is circulating. I put a new filter in there and verified that it was getting oil to the filter.
There's no sensor in the car that actually tells you the oil pressure. It just tells you if it's on or if it's making enough pressure to activate the switch.
Gotcha. And that's the only power steering fault I'm getting. So it had clock spring issues before, and I replaced the clock spring, then did the whole 2 1/4 left, 2 1/4 right. So it cleared the clock spring codes, but I was still getting a power steering fault. And that's what it's saying. It's just giving an implausible value.
And did you take apart the clock spring?
The only thing I swapped, so I took the whole steering column out, and then I took the clock spring from a 12C and put it into the clock spring of the 650S one. All the levers and everything from the 650S were the same.
And if those gears aren't properly positioned back after they pop out, I had to plug in the MDS and physically rotate those individually.
So I'd have to go into the gears and rotate those manually like you did, probably.
But you can't do that unless you can watch it live.
Yeah.
And see and basically see. Sounds good.
Okay,
thanks.
bye. That was Kevin at Supercar Garage. He is being very helpful. He offered over Instagram to help me out via phone and whatnot if I needed it a while back. And I figured I'd shoot him a DM last night about this problem just to get his professional opinion because they're the best at what they do here in the United States. And yeah, he's great. I'm gonna move on to putting the whole rest of the car together now that we know that we actually don't have many faults anymore. So this is great. I'm happy. Kevin's a really cool guy. I'm much more optimistic. So yeah, anyway, let's put the car back together. Okay, we've actually made some good developments since the last clip you saw. I almost forgot to mention to you guys, a month or so ago, I actually went down to Southern California. Somebody hit me up with actually a Mclaren trunk tub from a 12C. So we cut a pretty good deal. I got about half off roughly than I could buy one you know, new for. This is really all we need. It comes with all the lights, cigarette lighter, internal release for the trunk, a lot of the miscellaneous plugs from the bumper area that I didn't know what went to. A lot of them actually go to this. So that solved 2 issues in one. That's kind of what it'll look like when I actually put it into the, and you may notice I only have the tube of the trunk structure here. I still need the actual shroud of the plastic that kind of finishes off the actual cosmetic part of it. And I could not find the shroud. There's not one anywhere. I'd have to call the dealership and I'd have to probably order one in and wait for a dealership and go pick it up and everything. But miracles happen. An awesome guy. He actually has a YouTube channel. His name is Laser Sterling on YouTube. You guys might actually know him as the guy that 3D printed a Lamborghini Aventador SVJ, the full body. He 3D printed that. And that's how I found his channel back in the day. We were emailing back and forth and he said he's willing to 3D print me the shroud. He was kind of joking, so I don't know the logistics about it yet, but he's like, maybe I should just fly out there to help you put together. So we'll see if he actually follows through on that. But anyway, so excited. He actually had a 3D model for this entire assembly here with the shroud and everything. And so I told him I have the trunk tub, I just need the shroud, and he's currently printing it right now. He said he's about halfway done. I'm so excited for that. Saves me a lot of money and it's a better story in the end. So anyway, that's the development on the trunk structure for the McLaren. And then second development that all happened within like the last day or two is somebody is coming out here tomorrow to replace this windshield for me here in my garage. So that's a huge win. That's gonna completely transform the look of this car. So I'm very excited. You guys can see all the damage. There's cracks literally running through this entire windshield. So if you guys remember, I had a shop lined up previously, but I had to take it to their shop and they would do it for $500. This guy said he can come out tomorrow and do it for $200. So I'm hoping it works out great. Been waiting a long time for that.
So the boys came out bright and early the next day to get the windshield replaced. With the old glass removed, the new glass was ready to go in after transferring the rain sensor. The whole process took maybe an hour and a half and overall went pretty smoothly. And man, what a huge difference it made.
It finally looks as nice as it feels, you know? Obviously, there's still some things to do. You guys can see there's only one window that's rolled up because this freaking door panel is not getting power for some reason. Hopefully it's an easy fix, but coming into the interior, I know you guys didn't see much footage actually putting this back together, but it just looks so good and it feels like a real car now. I'm so excited. Just look how freaking clean this looks now. It's just the perfect like darkness in here. This is insane. It feels like I should just fire up the engine, go get groceries, go to the gym, whatever I normally do in this car. It's that close. It's really that close. All right, well, that's where I'm gonna leave you guys on this video. Obviously, there's still some things to button up, but given the scope of the project so far and all we've already done, all of this stuff feels very small and I think will go very quickly. At least that's a hope. I'm crossing my fingers we don't run into any more major snags on this project from here out, getting it on the road. I already know there's some things that we're just gonna have to figure out no matter what, but hopefully it all goes pretty smoothly from here on out. I still just can't believe my eyeballs looking at the car I'm looking at right now. It just looks brand new. I'm gonna have to start practicing my crying scene when I'm driving the car on the PCH. Anyway, that's pretty much gonna do it. Appreciate you guys watching. Hope you guys all have a fantastic rest of your day. Make sure to smash that like button before you guys head out.
Smash that like button.
And Lord Kurt's here.
Yeah.
Let's pan the camera here and show them really sketchy footage of what you're working on.